Hi parents and carers, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down and watch this video. I understand that things can be very busy for you, especially this time in the evening, what with getting things ready for dinner, getting the kids all ready for bed and stuff. So I really do appreciate you sitting down and just watching this. So as you are all aware, I really would love to give your child a new learning experience, and I would love to be able to do this through the implementation of the flipped classroom strategy. As we know, year 11 can be a particularly stressful time for students, especially as they transition from year 9, year 10, which is, a little bit heavy with work, but also slightly chill. As they transition into this HSC period where they have to begin just really going over the information and making sure that they understand everything in time for the HSC exams. So with this strategy, I really want to make learning such a fun and exciting and just a lively experience for your kids. Like, knowledge is just such an amazing thing to be able to have, and learning can be so much fun. And this is the experience that I want your child to have. The flipped classroom really benefits not only the child but also you as the parents. And later on in this video, I'm going to give a demonstration of what this strategy will look like in the classroom. Now, because you guys will be listening to my voice for most of this video, I thought I'd just spice things up a little and play this clip that I thought was pretty cute, but also provided a really good and clear explanation of the flipped classroom strategy. I hope you are able to draw from it as much as I have been able to.
This is a classroom. The teacher stands at the front, and the students watch and listen. You'll recognise this because it's probably how you were taught, and how your parents were taught before you. But there are a lot of problems with this approach to teaching. You see, not all students learn at the same speed, so some get left behind. And while some students learn better by listening, others may learn better by doing. This means that teachers can't always do the best job they can. But there is another way. The flipped classroom addresses these problems and makes learning more personal. First, the teacher makes a video that delivers the content they'd usually teach in class. Then they share it online with students who can watch it before the next lesson. This leaves the teacher free to spend class time leading activities that help students apply the knowledge. Students can rewind and re-watch a video as many times as they like and come back to class with questions for the teacher. So keeping up with the class is no longer an issue. Students can access the video at any time using mobile devices, giving them the ability to learn more independently. Instead of sitting and listening, students can spend class time applying knowledge in more practical ways. And teachers are free to spend their time working with students and giving them individual support and attention. The flipped classroom model is already making a difference to students and teachers worldwide, so get involved. Discover more at flippedinstitute.org and become part of the movement.
So more often than not, lessons tend to become more like lectures, as there is this really small time frame that teachers have to work with to be able to relay all of the information over to the children in time for end-of-year exams or even for the HSC. An enormous amount of pressure is placed on the teacher to make sure that the syllabus stop points are learned and understood by the kids. And an enormous amount of pressure is placed upon your children to be able to understand and know these concepts in time for the exams. And this happens sometimes at the expense of one or two or even a few more students who find themselves unable to keep pace with their fellow classmates, perhaps due to their inability to be able to grasp concepts as quickly as the others, or even because they may be experiencing problems at home or just any kind of personal problems. With the flipped classroom strategy, I want to make sure that no child gets left behind. In this strategy, I want to make sure that every child is able to learn at their own pace, and that within the setting of the classroom, that they are able to understand every concept in time for the next topic that we move on to. So as was shown in that small clip, students will view videos, peruse required readings, and complete quizzes and worksheets before the next class. with these resources made available to them over an online learning management site such as Moodle or Weebly, or simply through email. Through this, the course material will be available to them just at the touch of a button, so that they can learn the information at their own pace and have the time to mull over the information learned and to think of and write down any questions that might come to mind. When coming to class, because the knowledge has been learnt at home, they are free to ask questions and discuss any uncertainties or ideas for as long as they need to. Class time will also be used to facilitate class discussion on deep religious topics, or simply to study case studies as a group, as a class, or even individually. And this will allow for the religious concepts to be cemented in the students' minds. So I also really strongly believe that the flipped classroom will be of great benefit to you parents. As your child will be learning the content at home, you'll be more aware of what it is your child is learning. And furthermore, there will be this opportunity for intergenerational catechesis as the students learn about the faith around which your family is centered. For example, when learning about Christianity, those of you who are Christian will have the opportunity to sit down with your child and discuss the topics they'll be covering. Now, you might be thinking, if my child is learning the content at home, how are they going to be assessed? How will they have the time to complete assessments if they have to complete the classes at home? Worry not. I aim to make as many of the assessments in class as possible. And also, some of my classes will be conducted in the traditional style, so some of the classes will take place at school, providing your child the time to complete any assessments that will need additional time outside of the class to be completed. So the assessment tasks will include the mid and end of year exams, the evaluation of the students' participation and input into the class discussions, and this evaluation will take place every couple of weeks, and also a creative writing task just to make things a little bit more fun and interesting. So with this creative writing task, this assessment will take place after we have learnt about the Christian and Jewish religious traditions. So the students will come into class and they'll be asked to write a story from the first person perspective, imagining themselves to be either an early Christian who is about to be sent to the gladiator ring, or a young Israelite who is about to enter the promised land after wandering through the desert for 40 years. In both cases, students are encouraged to draw upon the knowledge that they've learned when covering the first two main topics of the syllabus for each of the religious traditions, so the origins of the religious tradition and the principal beliefs of that religion. So in imagining themselves as one of the persecuted early Christians, students are encouraged to ponder why, in light of the knowledge that they've learned over the past few lessons, why these people were so willing and happy to die for their faith, and why they were not afraid to die for God. In imagining themselves as a young Israelite about to enter the promised land, the students are called to reflect upon the promises Yahweh made to their ancestors, and why they personally have this faith and belief in Yahweh, who has called them to travel for so many years through this desert. Now, in light of all this information I've given to you, I want to give you a brief example of what the take-home lesson will look like for your children. Hey everyone, welcome to today's lesson. In this video, we're going to be discussing the third dot point of the first topic in the syllabus onto Christianity, the development of early Christian communities. Now, after Christ's death, the apostles were in hiding because they were in fear for their lives. So, as you are very much aware, they had just seen their leader horribly tortured and killed, and they were afraid that the same fate would await them, or that they would be arrested and put away for following this man. And as you are also well aware, Jesus had said while he was living that on the third day after his death, he would rise from the dead. Now, the Jews and the Romans were very much aware of this prophecy, and because they didn't believe that someone could rise from the dead on his own, because they didn't believe that Jesus was in fact God, they thought that this prophecy would come to pass by the apostles sneaking in the dead of night to the tomb and taking Jesus' body to make it seem as though he had in fact risen. Now, on the third day after Christ's death, the apostles were in this upper room in hiding when these women who had been to the tomb to cover Christ's body in oils and in herbs and spices for the burial process came and said that upon arriving to the tomb, they found it empty and that Jesus was there and he was alive. Now, hearing this, the apostles would have just been astounded, and a few of them ran out to the tomb straight away, only to find it indeed empty and that Jesus had indeed risen. But this was a fact that didn't really sink in until Jesus appeared to them in the upper room. Now, the apostles knew that their mission was to spread this good news of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. However, it wasn't really until Pentecost that their way forward was made clear to them. So, blessed with the gifts of the Holy Spirit, which include knowledge, wisdom, the gift of healing, and the gift of tongues, in which the apostles would speak, and people of different nations were just able to understand what they were saying. The 12 apostles traveled through towns, cities, nations, and countries, spreading this good news and healing people in Jesus' name. Peter and James, who were two of the 12 apostles, as well as Paul of Tarsus, were the main leaders or teachers of the Christian faith. Peter and James traveled through Palestine, spreading this good news, with a number of their teachings made into books within the Bible. Paul journeyed throughout the Hellenic world, so areas such as Greece, engaging with the people of all nationalities, ministering to them. The numerous letters he wrote to the communities throughout the Hellenic world, such as those written to the Corinthians, to the Hebrews, and to the Galatians, were made into the first Christian writings that really defined the doctrines and beliefs of Christianity. A short time later, the Gospels were written, recording the oral stories about Jesus, his life, and his ministry. At first, the Romans were tolerant of the Christians. However, as they realized that to be a Christian was, according to Roman belief, to threaten the power of Rome, the Romans began to persecute Christians. And this persecution was formalized by the Roman Emperor Nero in approximately 54 AD and continued until the reign of Emperor Constantine in 313 AD. Now, with the Roman Empire, it was believed that the emperor was himself a god, and this consequently meant that the people were called to worship and follow the emperor as a god before and above all else and anyone else. Now, as you are very much aware, to be a Christian means to follow God and to obey his laws above the laws of the earth, above any of the laws that are instituted by man. And the Roman Empire saw this to be a real threat to them, because if the laws of the Roman Empire were at odds with the law of God, then the law of God for the Christians would win every time, and they'd have to follow God before they can follow the empire. So as a means to try and prevent this religion from spreading, the Romans began persecuting the Christians either by killing them quickly, by stoning them, or by throwing them into the gladiatorial arena, where they were pitched against the Roman soldiers who were trained to fight in that arena, or against wild animals such as lions. Now, there's one thing I do want you to consider and think about before the next class, and it's that despite that there were these persecutions occurring, despite the fact that so many Christians were being killed in such horrible ways as well, the number of Christians kept on increasing, the religion kept on spreading. Now, I really want you to ponder on this, because it's really amazing, like the fact that the people could see that these Christians were being horribly killed, and yet they felt themselves to be called to become Christians. Like, I want you to consider why, perhaps, in light of the things we've learnt so far, why it is that the people felt that they were called to be Christians despite this persecution that was occurring. Now, before we go on to discuss the early church fathers, I want you to click on the link I have provided in the Moodle page below the link that led to this video. This link will lead you to a website that will explain the story of two female Christian martyrs, Perpetua and Felicity. I highly encourage you to read their stories and to fill out the worksheet I have provided in preparation for our class, as this will be the case study we will focus on for this particular topic. So I really encourage you after this video finishes to click onto that link and to read the stories of these two early Christian martyrs. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and watch this video. I really hope that I've been able to give you a clear understanding of the flipped classroom strategy, and that my demonstration showed you what to expect for the remainder of the year as I deliver these lessons to your children. If you have any more questions or you wanted to discuss something in particular in regards to the strategy, feel free to shoot me an email.